It's time for Lefties Losing It. And you may recall songstress and Lefty Losing It elder stateswoman Barbra Streisand blaming Donald Trump for making her fat. Yes, the president's powers are truly profound. Well, it's not just Babs who's overeating because of Donald Trump. Here is Rosie O'Donnell talking about how Trump's triumph saw her piling on the weight and hitting the bottle.
During his first go-round, it was very difficult, and I got myself into some bad places. You know, I was very, very depressed. I was overeating. I was over-drinking. I was so depressed, Chris. I can't, it hurt my heart that America believed the lies about him, and then it broke my heart to be in a business that creates and sells those lies for profit. You know, it was very heavy, to tell you the truth.
She wants you to think she's better now because she's fled to Ireland. But here she is just a few weeks ago with her delusional dreams about getting rid of Donald Trump. She thought it could happen perhaps even by June 14.
So upsetting everywhere you turn. It's really hard to believe that this man is the president of the United States. Yet he is, and I'm just hoping that we can get him out as soon as possible, hopefully before June 14th. Now, I don't know that that's possible, but that's when he wants to have this massive $90 million military parade for himself.
The parade was for the military, Rosie, celebrating 250 years of service, and it was magnificent, you miserable fantasists. Now, here are more crazy folk who claim cutting NPR's funding, cutting PBS's funding, will end lives. What? And why do they always look like this? Now, the next scenes you're about to witness are not from New York or California or some other depraved blue state. This footage is from Pride events in the great state of Texas. And these events are apparently family friendly.
That's the way I like the head down, ass up. That's the way I like
Now to some CNN craziness. Let's hear from former Congressman Jamal Bowman. Remember that Democrat race baiter? Well, he's now on CNN claiming that black folks are suffering serious health issues because people are using the N-word.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day. If your colleagues would listen and try to learn and engage and grow and stop being so hateful, we could have a better country.
Just unbelievable levels of race baiting lunacy there. Let's stick with CNN. They had some sobering news for their ever-diminishing audience. This needed a trigger warning for the lefty snowflakes because there's no way you can spin this data. It is historic. The fact is that despite the relentless fake news and media hysteria, Donald Trump is the most popular president with Republican voters ever. And that includes the great Ronald Reagan after he survived an assassination attempt. Grab some popcorn and enjoy this lefty rage bait, also known as facts.
So this isn't just Republicans who like Donald Trump. This is Republicans who love Donald Trump, and he's up like a rocket. Look at this. In July 2017, the strongly approved was 53%. That's pretty good. But look at where he is now. 63% of Republicans strongly approve of the job that Donald Trump is doing about 5 months into his presidency. Republicans love Donald Trump the way that Americans love Disney World. The bottom line is 63%. That is a huge base. And of course, it's just part of a Republican base in which about 90% of them overall approve of him, including the somewhat approves as well.
I mean, every politician would like this number here, especially to see it go up. How about compared to other presidents who were Republicans?
Yeah, it's history making. It's history making. What are we talking about here? So why don't we look back? We have all the presidents, Republican presidents, going back over the last 35, 36, 37 years. What are we talking about? GOP, who strongly approved 5 months in. Look at this. George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, 46%. Bush 43, 59. You see Trump, the first term, 53. But look at this. 63%. He beats all the other Republicans on the board here. And I was looking even back since Reagan. And get this, Donald Trump beats Ronald Reagan when it comes to the strongly approved 5 months. And of course, Reagan was coming off that high after that assassination attempt. So the bottom line is Donald Trump is making history with the Republican base. He is more beloved by this Republican base than any Republican base loved any GOP president 5 months in. It is history making.
Oh, I think I need a cigarette after all that. And here's some sobering news too for the rhinos, the Republican in name only members who think they'll reclaim the GPO from Donald Trump. Wrong.
You do not want to go against Donald Trump because the Republican base is with Donald Trump. And it's not just the polling. We actually have the data to show that the Republican base is with Donald Trump. The times Trump endorsees won the GOP primary for governor and congressional races. Look at this. 2024, 96%. 2022, 95%. 2020, 98%. The bottom line is this. 95% plus of the time, the Trump-endorsed candidate wins in GOP primaries. And even in the cases where Donald Trump endorses a challenger to an incumbent, the majority of the time, that challenger wins. So Donald Trump is a winner in Republican primaries. You go against Donald Trump, to quote the movie Good Burger, you go in the grinder.
Joining me now is host of Sarah Gonzalez Unfiltered on Blaze TV and Vice President of the Texas Family Project, Sarah Gonzalez. Sarah, what do you make of that data? These are, as Harry Enton said, historic numbers in the GOP. No president has been this popular among Republican voters.
Yeah, I mean, Rita, thanks for having me on. I think that the Democrats, in large part, I would say, have themselves to thank for these historic numbers because we have never seen a Democrat Party that has made their entire identity just hating another person, regardless of the policy. I mean, you have Donald Trump that just got elected in November, in large part due to his immigration policy, due to his promise to deport illegal criminals. And what are the Democrats doing? They're fighting him every step of the way. They have these activist judges that are blocking him implementing the policy that Americans elected him on. And so you saw it leading up to the election, Rita. Every time there was another assassination attempt, every time they threw him in the courtroom and didn't allow him to go out and campaign, Americans saw what was happening. They saw the lawfare and they said, we are not for this. We stand with Donald Trump. His numbers just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And what did they do after he won? All they did was double down on the same bad ideas that they had leading up to the election and decided we're just going to continue the lawfare. We're just going to continue fighting good policy. And that is a large reason why you see these historic numbers for not just Republicans, but Americans saying, no, you know what? These are reasonable, common sense policies. This is why I went to the voting booth in November and voted for him. And shame on you, the Democrats, for trying to fight the American will.
Well said. And we played some footage just earlier in Lefties Losing It of some of the scenes from Pride events in Texas, the great state of Texas, your state. This is footage obtained by the Texas Family Project of sexually explicit content. And Sarah, these are supposed to be at supposedly family-friendly events. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, Rita, it really is sickening what we are seeing, not just in Texas, but across the entire country, that these events that you're seeing, the types of graphic imagery that you guys are playing right now, we are seeing at every single one of these events that are billed as family friendly. These LGBTQIA exponent, PEMDAS organizations are going out and they are formulating these festivals, and they are intentionally, purposefully putting in this sexual content, and then they're claiming What are you talking about? We had no idea that there were children that were going to be there. Here's another key factor, Rita. Every single time our organization, Texas Family Project, goes undercover into one of these pride festivals and we uncover the disgusting sexually explicit performances that are happening in front of young children, almost every time the drag queen, the performer, whoever it is, seeks out the children in the crowd and interacts with them. And if that doesn't tell you all that you need to know about the intention of these people, I don't know what else will. These are sick people, these are degenerates, and we need to keep them not only away from children, but we need to have a reckoning in America of what we really are about. I mean, your homosexuality, heterosexuality aside, this is what we are parading around: sexuality, degeneracy, half-naked people just, dancing together. I mean, you should have seen the streets of San Francisco. It was disgusting. And we have to ask ourselves as a country, are we going to be a moral people? Do we stand for morals and values? Do we want to teach our children better, or do we just want to be a hedonistic, low-life society? It's gotten really, really sad. And I got to tell you, if that is happening in the state of Texas, way worse is happening all across the country, especially in the blue states.
Well, yeah, when you see those scenes, I'm not making excuses, but when you see it in NYC or San Francisco or LA, that's one thing. But when it happens in a red state like Texas, where the people have voted and they have said, we reject this sort of ideology, we reject the excesses of the LGBT movement. How is it happening in Texas? How does it happen in Florida, Tennessee, red states, where the people have rejected this?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question. And it's one that I ask myself often. And the only conclusion that I can come to after being at so many of these events and being around these people is that they are intentionally creeping into the red states because they already know that they have a stronghold in the blue states. There's no reason to stay there. They already know they can get away with whatever they want. I mean, you've got, again, people in San Francisco, grown men, overweight, obese men who nobody wants to see naked, prancing around totally naked in front of young children, and nobody is getting arrested. We used to call that indecent exposure. And now all of a sudden it's being done in broad daylight in front of children, and police will not act, will not do anything. The reason that they start coming into the red states is because they already know that they've got a stronghold in the blue states, and they want to start testing their boundaries and seeing how far they can get and how many states they can acquire power in. Because as we know, this is a very, very instrumental, long process. They play the long game, the left does. And so they are used to quietly infiltrating, setting up shop in these red cities, in these red communities, seeing how far they can push, seeing how far they can get away with so that they can extend their power into the red states. And honestly, I wish I could tell you that it wasn't working, but in large part, it really has been working for them.
And it desensitizes people. You see this over and over again, and you kind of forget just how perverse it is, how weird it is to have nude adult bodies walking down the street in front of children. Like you said, that was considered indecent exposure not too long ago. And the Texas Family Project, which I know you're a part of, does great work in exposing what is happening around the state. Now, let's move on to Donald Trump. Again, he was in Florida today for the opening of Alligator Alcatraz, and he noted that Joe Biden, the former president, wanted him to end up in a jail like that.
Many of the news claims are keeping him out in the hot, humid South Florida. That is wrong. It's probably 62 degrees here, to be honest.
Hey, Biden wanted me in here, okay? He wanted me. It didn't work out that way, but he wanted me in here.
And at Alligator Alcatraz, the president was also asked about what is happening in his old home city of New York.
Your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zoran Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zoran Mandami?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation.
Certainly a strong statement from the president. But Sarah, tell me, how much power do the Democrats' radical wing hold at the moment? We've seen a number of elder statesmen and women, including Bill Clinton, congratulating this radical Marxist. They're not repelled by him. A lot of them are inspired.
Yeah, I mean, it remains to be seen whether or not this man can actually win in New York City. I got to tell you, by the way, if he does win if he does pull it off, New York City will be irrevocably changed. It will be irrevocably, pained from all of these policies that he decides to implement. He is a full-blown communist. The interesting thing about the New York City primary in the Democrat Party is that when you look at the data of the people who were actually going in and voting for this man, the man who claims that he's about the working class and he's all about equity and he wants to make things fair, you would think that he would appeal to the working class people. Well, largely the working class people here in New York City rejected this man. And it was, of course, the liberal elites, the people who were making so much money that they didn't really care, that they think that they know better. And they want to dictate policy for these poor, oppressed, poor people that they know better for. And so that's who you saw voting for Mamdani. You didn't see the actual working class, who his policies would affect the most, vote for this man. So it's tough to say how much the radical wing, has really taken over the Democrat Party. But I think that if the last presidential election shows anything, I don't think that this man will be as successful as perhaps Bill and Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama want him to be. My hope is that New York City says, you know what, we may be Democrats, but we are not communists, and we are rejecting this communist scum.
We'll be watching that race with bated breath. Before you go, I want to play you an exchange between Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth and Democrat Congresswoman Sarah Jacobs. It's about men identifying as women in the armed forces.
If it were, you would be keeping these women in. Instead, you are the one injecting culture wars into the military, and it's at the detriment of our military readiness and national security. Now, General Kane, I'd like to turn to you.
So to be clear, these are men who think they're women.
These are women. I'm happy to educate you on
but these are men.
on trans
and so
issues at another
what we've
time.
identified is that there's mental health issues with that belief system.
I'd like to turn to General
are
Kane
detrimental
now.
to readiness, and that's the determination that we've made and that we stand behind. Gender dysphoria.
And so,
Sarah, what's your response to those who, like Congresswoman Jacobs, argue that the military is now weakened by these soldiers being sidelined?
Well, what I would say to Congresswoman Jacobs is simply look at the statistics, look at the numbers. The military has had record numbers of people joining, in large part due to the adults being back in charge. I know as much as Brian Stelter, Mr. Potato Head himself, liked to say the adults are back in charge when Joe Biden came into office. Really, the adults are back in charge. And we all know biology. It's very, very simple. And by the way, if a man is confused about what sex or gender he is, he can't just look between his legs and understand what he is. We don't really need him serving in the military. It serves as a distraction. And so I would tell Congresswoman Jacobs, look at the recruiting numbers. They're through the roof because young men are excited about, not being told that they are toxic, about being told that they should be strong and they should be willing to fight. And we can have the greatest, strongest military in the entire world. No offense, Rita, of course. If we just pay attention to the right things. They are supposed to be deadly. They are supposed to be strong. We are not supposed to be worrying about coddling someone because they don't know what sex they are. And so, I mean, Congresswoman Jacobs, this used to be an elite, esteemed position to be in Congress. Now, apparently, anyone can join, and they don't even need to pay attention to numbers or statistics or figures or, hell, even basic biology, Rita.
Well, you've got justices on the Supreme Court who can't tell you what a woman is, so we shouldn't be surprised that we've got Congresswoman Jacobs there. And just on Pete Hegseth, I want to play you a statement he made, because I think the Trump administration understands better than most that names matter, language matters, and the left has always understood that. And here is Defence Secretary Pete Hegseth announcing that the United States Navy is renaming the US naval ship Harvey Milk to the Oscar V. Peterson.
We are taking the politics out of ship naming. We're not renaming the ship to anything political. This is not about political activists, unlike the previous administration. Instead, we're renaming the ship after a United States Navy Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, as it should be. People want to be proud of the ship they're sailing in. And so we're renaming it after a chief, a Navy chief.
Pete Hegseth goes on to describe the heroics of Oscar V. Peterson and why he's earned that honour. These things matter, Sarah. The Trump administration gets it, whether it's statues being torn down, army bases being renamed or ships. It matters.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, history matters, right, Rita? I mean, you know, we look at all of the statues, you point out all of these statues that the left has torn down, quite literally torn down. And we look at how much they've changed, how much, I mean, they even eliminated Aunt Jemima, right? They have gone from celebrating really key figures in our history for what they were known for into just erasing our history. And what we know is that if we don't really embrace and learn history, we are of course bound to repeat it. So of course we should be embracing, you know, United States Naval Service members instead of gay activists. I mean, of course we should be recognizing the things that matter. And I really do commend Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth along with President Trump for recognizing that. I mean, this is not the first thing that they have decided to rename, to take back from the left that has co-opted, of course, language and co-opted some of our bases, our army bases, our military bases, and these ships as well. And so the Trump administration has said, no more. We are going to honor these service members. We are not going to pretend like it is, you know, it is wrong to be strong and be proud of our military. We are going to be proud of it. And we're not going to be ashamed of history anymore. And I think that it's a really, really important thing to recognize. And I think it's a really big win, not just for this administration, but for the entire country. It's about damn time that we start, you know, embracing these things again, because I got to tell you, China is over there building machines. They're not afraid to embrace their military. And finally, we have an administration that is, you know, doing that. We've got record recruiting numbers. And I'm really, really excited about the future of the United States military under the direction of course, President Trump and Pete Hegseth.
Sarah Gonzalez, thank you so much for your time tonight.